This Social Security measure gives at least some protection
for anybody to hand this out. We're asking for a chance to have the people who will receive the benefit to earn their way. The same principle established under the Social Security system in the 30s.
It is no longer acceptable to discuss women's rights as separate from human rights.
I know we can come together to face down the challenges of our own time.
Welcome back to another special edition of The Democrats. It's a special edition because we're interviewing today one of the Senate candidates running from Nashua, Senate District 13. And the Democratic candidate is Bette Lasky. Welcome, Bette.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for asking me.
So you're running for your old seat that you're running to get back. What is in Senate District 13? I know it's a little bit different now.
It did. It changed but with the addition of Ward 9. But it's Wards 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, and again, the addition of Ward 9.
Oh, wow. So that's two-thirds of the city.
It is, exactly. Senator Gilmore has wards, well, the ones that are left, 1, 2, and 5. Mm-hmm. And actually, though, in the redistricting, I think my district was one of the, I don't know, perhaps few that did lose population and legitimately had to add somewhere. And as you know, there was talk about taking Ward 3
and
out
putting
of
it in Hudson.
into Hudson, and I think some would have liked to have taken the Senate district, and if population needed to be added, add it to Hudson, what have you. And there was talk of that, and many of us spoke to the mayor, and as I know you did, and frankly, it would have could have seen a total disenfranchisement of the people of Nashua.
Well, it sure would have at the state rep level.
And in the Senate, because we could have had a senator from Hudson.
Mm-hmm. So, Bette, you and your family lived in Nashua for a long time, and you have a long long record of public service. Share that with us, if you would.
Sure. My husband, Elliot, who is a local optometrist, and I have been living here for more than 30 years. More than 35 years, I think now, right. Certainly lived here longer than I've lived anyplace else. I was born and raised in Quincy, Massachusetts. Went to University of Massachusetts in Amherst and lived in Massachusetts until I graduated school. Then my folks moved to Florida, retired there, and that's where I met the good doctor. And we were married in Florida. Lived there for about 5 years. He had opened a practice. He's from New Jersey. And I was like, frankly, a fish out of water. Mm-hmm. I didn't like the weather. Most people go there. I didn't like the weather. We had our first child there and a whole host of reasons.
You're a New Englander.
I am. You're right. And it's funny, until you move away. Well, it wasn't even so much the Red Sox, if I have to admit. But the weather was a big, and the people. Sure. It's totally different. And I hadn't thought it would be, because pretty gregarious. I make friends easily. But anyway, when our first child was born, wanted more for her and particularly the education system down there was not good. So luckily, this is kind of ironic. I opened a professional magazine of Elliot's. When I was a kid, I went to camp at Natticook in Merrimack. That's right. I went to Natticook. So opened this magazine that he only got once. And it said optometric practice for sale in Nashua, New Hampshire. And I, chomping at the bit to get out of Florida, but I said, oh, I know Nashua. That's where I went roller skating when I went to camp.
What year did you come?
We came 77.
77. Wow. And you've like I say, you have a long record of public service. Why don't you tell us some of the things you've done in Nashua here?
As my children, I had one child born in Florida, as I said, and one who was born here. And as I was fortunate enough to be able to stay home with them, but I needed more, so I would go out in the evening. Elliot would come home, and I would go out in the evening and do volunteer work. And most of it started with my my work at Temple Beth Abraham. People gravitate towards their churches, whatever. Sure. And I led the nursery school there. Was director of the Temple Beth Abraham Nursery School, and an organization for training, rehabilitation through training, a women's organization. At any rate, so I began to branch out and meet people through those organizations. And then I was approached by then Mayor Donchis, I believe it was, and to try and do planning board.
Right.
Another ironic thing, actually, he asked Elliot first, and Elliot said, I can't do it, you know, I'm too much, and luckily I'm very busy, but my wife would be wonderful. So that started my sort of political career.
And from there, what did you serve?
I served on planning board for 17 years, was chair for 10.
Yeah.
From there, I would, you know, do various historic district committee, capital improvements committee. I chaired that, which was fascinating, and that helped. That's where the anything over, I believe it's $50,000, comes to the capital improvements committee. They prioritize the issues, and it goes to the aldermen when they do their budget.
And then state representative, when did you first get elected
well,
there?
that was my children were older, and I know I had been approached, and that was Mayor Wagner that approached me at that time to run for alderman. And having been involved in the city, I said, no, I don't think I want to do that. But as I said, as my children got older, so that was 1998 was the first year as first elected to the State House. As Ward 8, then it was a single ward. Then subsequent years it became 7 and 8.
Yep.
And then it became 5, 8, and 9. Right. And my last, I believe, 3 terms maybe, I ran from 5, 8, and 9.
So you were in the House for 10 years.
10 years.
And up in the very top of the Democratic leadership.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough.
And then tell us about your Senate experience.
Well, and Senator Foster, actually one time when then Senator Pignatelli was stepping down, they approached me to run for Senate at that point, and I believe it must have been 6 years prior to when I finally ran. But my mother had just passed away, and I do know it was 2003, and I just, you know, didn't have the mental reserves or whatever to do it at that point. So Joe Foster stepped to the plate, and he served for 6 years, I believe, 4 or 6 years. And then he decided, as his children were getting older, that he wasn't going to run, and that was 2008. And I ran in 2008 and was elected. And then we all know what happened in 2010.
So you've been a senator. You were a leader in the Senate when you were there. You're back now, back running again. Tell us why you're running. Tell us why. What inspired you to take up the challenge?
I think I had a lot of unfinished work. I mean, I felt, you know, in running in 10 that there were still things, and I did love the House. I will always love the House. I think a little bit of my heart will always be there. But found the Senate, you know, was a different experience, and really enjoyed that, and had chairmanship of election law and Veterans Affairs there, was vice chair of judiciary. And you tend to, because of the smaller body, your knowledge is just increased. You learn about everything. Right. And I find that fascinating, and so enjoyed it. And frankly, you know, was unprepared to leave in 10. So when, you know, time came up to run again, it was a difficult election, as you all know, in 10. You know, it was not pretty, and so my family really my girls didn't want me to run. They felt it was, you know, too hard on us, whatever. But having done, Peg and I did the radio show on WSMN, and so we became maybe more intimately involved with a lot of the issues that were going on, and, you know, had guests like the two of you on, and we learned. So as I often say, the good news was we had to know what was going on in Concord, and the bad news was we had to know what was going on in Concord. Right. So I felt that there was certainly room for me to be back, and I wanted to go back, and that's why I'm running again, because, as you well know, civility. You know, I feel I have a good record of working across the aisle. And prided myself on that, and certainly that needs to be done. And of course, the other side has to be open to that. But hopefully, the numbers will change, and it looks like, you know, the numbers will change in the Senate. And the Senate's a more congenial body.
Right.
Tell us a story about when the Speaker O'Brien, there was some people that were acting up in the gallery, and he cleared the gallery, and closed the gallery completely. Not just remove the unruly people, but close the whole gallery. Tell us your involvement in that on that day, which we all who were in the House remember very well.
Right, and I'm proud of that. You know, as I say, my roots are in the house, and maybe that had something to do with it, but the People's House should not be closed to anyone. And yes, there was a little bit of unruliness, and I was there. It was the day we were protesting the budget.
Right.
So there were a lot of people around, and frankly, it should have been expected that there would be a lot of people in the gallery. Passions were heated, and so you can control that, and that's why we have security there.
What was your specific involvement that day?
My specific involvement was he closed the gallery. He closed the house to buy
Right, he has a
changes.
security clearance.
And you, didn't you get involved?
Yes, and we immediately, myself and now gubernatorial candidate Maggie Hassan, Paul Toomey, who you may know is one of the attorneys for the Democratic Party. At any rate, rushed to the courts and put an injunction in against the Speaker for having closed the House.
Right.
And we immediately went to court because it was something that had to be dealt with immediately. And
because the Constitution says that the Speaker has ability to keep order, to remove people who are unruly. It also says the gallery should be open at all times, so that obviously we're not working in the dark. That the transparency and the public can watch what we're doing. I mean, that's the way American government works.
And that doesn't mean only streaming video.
And whether it was me, and actually what I saw, you're right, was not good enough. You're right. I don't think the founding fathers had that in mind.
No streaming video.
Yeah, exactly. But
ironically, by the way, the video crashed that day because everybody did try to go on.
Right.
And then we really were in the dark because the video and the audio crashed because so many people came on the server, and then
to see what was going on,
and the gallery was closed. So for a while we were doing business without any public,
Well, what happened was we were up in the gallery trying to get in, and a family was there, and this is what ignited me. A family was there with their two young kids. And they were closed out. And, the security who works long and hard, they don't know. They just said, this. So I went up and said, what's going on? Why aren't you letting these people in? And he said, well, we've got word from the Speaker. And I said, no, I'm sorry. And, I said, they deserve to go in. And subsequently, that's what happened.
Right.
But we ended up sort of reaching an agreement. I mean, we did take it to somewhat of a conclusion, but there was, as is everything,
well, all I know being there is that we had a recess and we came back, the gallery was open.
Right.
And it wasn't no small part to the fact that there was I think an injunction filed in the court.
And you served under him for the rest of that. It was early in the session
It was the budget,
that happened.
correct.
Yeah.
So tell us some ishes that are your hot buttons that
near and dear to you.
Near and dear to me. Well, commuter rail. As I have said, since Bernie Streeter started I don't know whether you'd call it a committee, or whatever, to look into commuter rail back in his term. I think it was his first term. I served on that as an adjunct to my planning board work, and so long became an advocate of commuter rail. When I was in the House, we wanted to pass a law at that time. So and basically it was a resolution. It became a resolution, but a law that the state would look into commuter rail. And that goes back to, I guess,
06?
Prior to that. The Trans Authority was in 06.
Right,
so
06,
prior to
and
that,
the three of us were all in that bill.
Right.
That's right. That's right. So prior to that, though, we were trying to just get recognition.
Right.
Because the House, it's two separate states, Concord down and Concord up, and certainly the people in the North Country saw no need for rail. At any rate, what it became, at that point, I didn't realize it was going to be such a hot-button issue. And it became a resolution, which I got it through the House, but did not get it through the Senate because of the work on I-93. At that time, they were worried that if we were diverting attention to rail, that I-93 wouldn't get completed. So it didn't go through. But again, I've long been an advocate of it and will remain so. And then this year, when they tried to do away with the Rail Transit Authority, which, as you said, we all worked hard to get that through, I thought, I still don't understand the reasoning, and I certainly don't understand Councilor Wheeler's vote. There's so much positive reasons, so many positive reasons to have rail here, or certainly to look into it. And if it turns out that it is not cost effective, et cetera, we will know that.
As you run for Senate, Betty, because you're a Senate candidate in all those 6 wards, or most of us run in just one now. What are you hearing from voters, from constituents?
For rail? Oh, in general?
Yeah, besides rail, what other issues do you hear that people are, upset about, interested in, want advocacy about?
Yeah, obviously, they want to be heard. I think that's one of the things that, unfortunately, this legislature, and I had never heard that in all the years that I ran, I'd never heard that before.
People not even responding to phone calls and emails. I've heard that as well this term.
And they feel like, they haven't been heard. And, I mean, again, I certainly pride myself on constituent service, as you all do, and feel that that's a major part of our job. We're there to help people. The other thing I found interesting as I started to go around early for President Obama, I would take the opportunity to, even if people were at that point undecided about their presidential candidate, they clearly knew that they would say, but we have to do something about Concord. Right. So they equate what's happened in Concord with what's happened in Washington and the gridlock. So I really think that that's been the main focus of people, is that they're sick to death of that in Washington. And now to see it happening here, which, we have a kind of unruly legislature, 400, but it's always worked.
The amount of extreme legislation that passed the House, and not always the Senate, but sometimes the Senate as well,
right,
was unprecedented in the sense that there was so much of it, and it really just was overturning the apple cart in terms of what New Hampshire values have been in the past.
We are mostly, I think, a citizenry of moderates.
That's what I think.
And certainly the onslaught to women. This state, education, healthcare, voting rights. A lot of it, to me, has been legislation that's been in search of a problem, where there hasn't been one. And no matter how much you told them, these are the facts. And I would listen to this, and I'd know from my prior work that there's no evidence of voter fraud here.
Right. Well, we've run out of time, Betty.
Oh, I'm sorry, but that was
time
quick.
just goes fast when you're having fun.
When you're having fun, and there is a lot to talk about and a lot going on.
Well, thank you. Good luck.
Thank you. This has been a special edition of The Democrats with State Senate District 13 candidate Bette Lasky, and I'm Cindy Rosenwald, my co-host David Campbell. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.